Appreciate you allowing us to share this video with you today. This afternoon, I've gotten together Scott and Keeve and myself here. We're going to talk about the monitor board, some of the issues that we've been having with it, and I just want to bring you up to speed on it. So hopefully we can, get it in the process of getting a resolution for it. So first, Scott, tell us a little bit about a monitor board. What is a monitor board, and why do we've got two audio boards. Tell us the difference between them and what they do.
The main difference is the board out in the room. It allows the sound engineer to mix and blend all the different sounds that you hear in the room. What I do over here is take the same thing and do 20 or 25 different individual separate mixes. We call them mixes for each singer, bass player, guitar player, Pastor Tim, so that they can hear what they need to hear in order to be able to minister.
So each you're doing 25, maybe 25 different mixes each service.
Correct.
And they're different mixes depending on the event that you're doing.
Correct.
Okay. And so give us an example. What does the guitar player want to hear?
Guitar player needs to hear themselves, obviously. They need to hear the drums so that they stay in timing with the rest of the band. They need to hear whoever's leading, whether it be Keeve or Pastor Tim, and then subtle things of other instrumentation. And that becomes the challenge because it's very, very subtle, and the level adjustments that I have to make are almost minute because of what they need to hear. And also remember, they're listening to them with these earbuds, so everything is right here in their head. So that enables them to play with the other people.
So why is it that they can't do that from the front of house board?
There aren't enough outputs on the board at front of house to provide the different mixes. The front of house board can only do probably 4 individual mixes, and that's it.
So they're focused out there at trying to find the best experience for the end user, the congregants that are coming.
Correct.
Your client is each individual musician, making sure that they're providing the best given the best mix, so they can provide the best performance.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So when did we get this? This is our current board. Tell us a little bit about this board, when we got it, how much we paid for it.
We got the board in, I believe, March of 2004, and I believe it was $50,000 was the upfront cost. We got a special deal. They were on the market at the time for $90,000, but we got it for $50,000. I believe it was on a lease.
Okay.
The board has been discontinued by the manufacturer because of new equipment available probably 2 years ago.
Okay, so they're no longer really officially
No,
supporting that anymore.
They don't sell them anymore.
Okay. All right. So what's the life expectancy of an analog board like this?
10 years to 30 years. It really depends on a lot of factors. We would be considered to be in a more of an ideal situation because it's not being loaded onto a truck and being bounced around. We're in a bad situation because it stays on, it gets used so much, and it's being powered on and off. Every time you power it on or off, you can disrupt all the capacitors and all the electronic circuits.
It's a highly electronic,
Extremely.
And a lot of mechanical knobs and things.
Yes.
On this particular
Lots
board.
of mechanical knobs.
Okay. All right. So tell us a little bit about some of the issues that we've been experiencing lately.
The biggest one is randomly we get a low frequency tone or hum that doesn't show up on any channels, that goes out to all of the mixes. And I think we could ask Keeve is what happens if you're on stage and you're leading and all of a sudden you get that low frequency. How does that affect you?
Well, it's almost as if someone is preaching and someone were to stand up during the sermon and be a distraction, either shouting, running across the stage. It just pulls you out of your ministering at that time. And as a Ministry of Helps praise and worship team, our purpose is to help, the minister prepare in the word for the congregants and stuff.
So it's not only doing it to you, but it's doing it to every single band member.
It goes out to every
Singer.
mix across the board. The other issue that we're having is you'll notice that the left side is up quite a bit from the right side. What that basically means is that the right side is louder than the left, and in order to give a balanced signal to the singers or the musicians in here, I've had to adjust these down, and if you kind of scan across, you can see they're all different because everything is different. All of these knobs, all these that are together like this, should be equal.
So in other words, it's starting to fail on one side, so you have to compensate by adjusting up the level on one side or the other.
Yes.
And that's just been kind of consistently getting worse and worse.
It's getting worse and worse. Yeah.
Okay.
What happened last weekend during the break, the drummer and the bass player came up to me and said that the left side dropped out completely during praise and worship, and then about 3 seconds later it came back up at a higher volume. My biggest concern is that because we're dealing with people's ears, that I have a concern that if something were to come back in at a really loud level, it could be damaging to their ears.
Well, so what would happen if a high frequency, loud volume came in to any of these musicians' ears?
It could create, there could be some deafness. It could create a hearing loss.
Okay.
And then there could create a chaos, so to speak, during that song.
You'd see people pulling them out of their ears, and,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
basically you'd have to stop. probably.
Everybody's professional, but if it is that bad, it could be where someone would have to stop
So
completely playing.
the bottom line is we're starting to experience issues that are getting worse and worse, and this hum that's been coming in has been more and more frequent. Scott kind of knows how to get around it, but what do you do when that happens?
Number one, I have to take and start on the left side of the board, solo up every channel, and there are 56 of them. As soon as I find the one that hums, then I have a way of
You
twirling. I
turn
twist
them
the
and
knob.
what we call exercising all the
Exercising-
knobs until you figure
exercising
out
a knob.
what it is. So that could take 30 seconds to 2 minutes to track it down and fix it. In the meantime, musicians are all getting this distracting hum, and this has been happening pretty frequently. All right?
That's, yeah.
Alrighty. Okay, so basically we've determined this board is starting to have some issues. I want to talk about what are some solutions for this. So I guess our two options are repair the current board or purchase a new board. So I know that when we started talking about it, we said let's get all of the pricing. So tell us a little bit about what it would take to repair the board.
I checked with a local vendor we've actually had in and done some, I call preliminary, primary, so what do you call it? Well, you can add it. Preliminary
Pricing.
we had a gentleman come in and go through the board and did as on-site repair to try and fix some things. He was able to correct a few things, but said it's not enough to really fix it. The ideal thing would be to remove the board from here, package it up, send it into a repair place, and leave it there for a specific time. The local guy said 4 weeks for him to do it. The other option is there's a company in Nashville that specializes in repairing these. About a year ago, I spoke with a gentleman that owns a company, and he said $15,000 to bring it up as close to possible to spec, but with no guarantees because of the size the age of the board.
Okay. So in other words, we could spend $15,000. Now is that before the cost of shipping?
That's just the repair.
Just the repair.
That's
so
a couple thousand for shipping.
a couple thousand for shipping. So we're anywhere from $14,000 to $17,000, $18,000.
Yes, and then you have to rent a board to put in place.
So that could boost it up to
Another $5,000.
So
rent.
we could be up to low 20,000s
Yeah.
to get this board back up to spec.
Yep.
And then it's not guaranteed after that. There's no warranty on that work, so
No.
it could go out. It could start failing again.
Correct. You might be able to get a 30-day warranty, but nothing that's really substantial and enough that to me it's worth anything.
Okay. So that's one option. Now, on top of that, tell us about, we've talked about saying let's say what it would cost to replace this, and it wouldn't really make sense to replace it with another analog board just because of. Tell us a little bit about why we'd want to maybe go up to a digital board as opposed to another analog board.
One of my challenges is each singer, each musician has slightly different needs of what they have to hear. We have 3 different guitar players, we have 3 or 4 bass players, we have 3 drummers just for weekend services. Then you add in MCA events, another whole different group of people, and fifth service on Friday night. Part of my job is to go through and take notes and get used to what the musicians need and want to hear, And then what I do is I'll come in for an hour or 2 hours before and try and pre-dial things as close as possible, so that when they come in, they can start to perform, go through their sound check and do the music that they have to do.
So now, not to interrupt, but another thing that introduces is that the reason that we can make that work is because Scott has worked in this position for so long. He knows what each one of those musicians needs. So we've been able to get by, but it really hampers our ability to get volunteers and other people up to speed here because they don't know what different musicians want. So a digital board, correct me if I'm wrong, but it provides us the opportunity to store different scenarios, different service types, different musicians' preferences. So that person come in and basically punch in that particular type of service, and they wouldn't necessarily have to recall what everybody wants. It would be stored because it's basically a little computer in there.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Very well said.
I've been listening
I like
to you.
that.
I've
Very
been
well
listening
said.
to you.
Yeah.
Okay. A little bit about the benefits of a digital console. I know Pastor Tim wanted you to do some research
Yes.
on what it would take for us to purchase a digital console. What did you find out from your research?
One of the things I did is I checked with some other churches that are in the same stream of ministry we are, and other people I have connections with. I found out that Creflo's church had just recently purchased a Digico SD8. Looked at that. I checked with Gateway in Dallas. They also have a Digico. It kind of, for me, it narrowed it down to what do we need, what addresses our needs, and what's realistic in price. And what I came up with that will do everything we need now and give us room to grow. And the Digico SD8 was the one that I feel is the best answer.
Okay, so for you looked at a number of different manufacturers, but that particular console had the right feature set for our needs here,
Yes.
and the right price point.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Price range is between 42 and 50, depending on a couple options. And this is from a local vendor.
Okay, great. So how does that compare to other consoles, digital consoles out there?
Price range for digital consoles go from 240,000 down to about 35.
Okay, all right. So there's a huge range, and obviously we could utilize a $200,000 console if we had the money, but we think that this console will meet the needs that we've got
Yes.
for the next upcoming
Quite a number of years.
quite a few years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's great. All right. Well, that kind of wraps it up. We thank you so much for listening to us and appreciate your time and consideration in this. Thank you.